closer to Naruto just having his battle senses being rusty as a result of prolonged peace, not him actually getting weaker and his power dropping.
I mean, I disagree with that interpretation. Why even include something like that within the confines of the story if that's not what the writer wants you to think? Like, it's just needlessly confusing at that point. Not to mention, I've brought this up before, but why is it acceptable to have this sort of stance, like the almost the same exact stance, with regards to like Hanzo or Hiruzen or other such characters, or Kakashi in part 1, where they're rusty or they're old or etc. etc. Some form of statement like that, and it's considered fine or acceptable within the community. So why is that considered fine, but not this? I mean, it's literally the same sort of thing. Like, Hiruzen got old, rusty, so he's weaker. I mean, what's the difference between saying that and saying, Naruto got rusty and he got weaker? What's the difference? Besides, like, you feeling that it's not true for one, but not the other. You can't really define the distinction or difference between these two things. And again, this whole thing here existing, this little scene, this little storyline here, proves the point that he got weaker. It doesn't matter on its own face value if everything contradicts it, but that's not true. So, I'm not going to make a big deal about this scene in specific, but he does, in fact, prove the point that people are saying against him. We're gonna stop with this one because, again, if you in any way accept Hiruzen got weaker as an adult, as an old man, because he got rusty or old, or you accept the same with Hanzo, or Part 1 Kakashi, you then have to accept this for adult Naruto because it's the same exact thing. And if you don't accept that, you're being inconsistent. We're gonna go into the next statement here.
Satsuki clan members who Kaguya was preparing to fight, that being Momoshiki and Kinshiki, to the point that Kaguya created a white Zetsu army to fight.
Mind you, Kaguya is so weak and fodder that anyone in Boruto can beat her, including base Momoshiki, but she also thought that Zetsu could beat him up for some reason. So, apparently Zetsus are capable enough to beat Momo, but Kaguya is such a fodder that she can't do it. Again, this is just a clear case of like these guys having a specific preference for what you would want to call war. War as in meaning inconsistent elements of the story, either minor extrapolative elements of the story in a medium that's not the main one. For example, a novel or a guide or something like that, that is not really mainly relevant to the story, or a element that is outside of the series or franchise. For example, in the God of War series, people will often talk about war or the war scaling, or meaning mythology, for example. So, or tropes. So what war means generally is very much kind of non-story content that is kind of outside the scopes of what would be considered the mainline material, I guess, is the best way to put that. And that's the problem with a lot of Boruto. He'll kind of get into this by the end. I'm going to try to end it soon because I have a limited time scope as to record. But yeah, that's essentially what war means. So we're going to go over here. I'm gonna skip this a lot because he doesn't really say anything of substance. He brings up Ishiki losing to Kaguya, which is like, what if he's so strong? Then wouldn't he just tank anything she can do? It kind of falls apart logically.
Characters they're fighting against, which Susanoo worked as a whole. Frost and Shuriken and absorbing nature. So what an adult or into the board plays during the war were captured in the God tree, a maximized truth-seeking ball, so to speak. Even ignoring the obvious scaling implications and problems that come from just saying Naruto got weaker, it isn't really bound.
It's not really contradicted, or there isn't really scaling problems when you say he got weaker. It's why the Kage can keep up with Momo, for example. Like, if the Kage, you know, couldn't keep up with Momo, this would make more sense, but the Kage can keep up with Momo, so it is kind of consistent. Again, the consistencies are a lot more consistent when you say they're weaker, which is why you're avoiding the Kage thing, which is something that's often brought up, even though he's ignoring it because it's inconvenient. Again, there's a lot of arguments people will make for Boruto being weaker. Arguments he's avoiding like a motherfucker because he knows it kind of disproves his point, even though he disproves his point multiple times in this video. Like, for example, he's going to say that this is the same exact design, even though it's not, because one's the base form of Spasm and one's the Kurama Sage mode. Which is why it looks different. It's why there's an orange line here, because it's Kurama Sage mode. Where this is just the base Spasm. Mind you, the cloaked Spasm that Shippuden Naruto uses looks nothing like this at all. It doesn't look anything like this, actually, because the eye's yellow instead of orange.
As Naruto still has the same six-path Sage mode eyes that he displays during the war arc. A lot of people get it twisted since a lot of official media does refer to Naruto in Kurama mode even as an adult or into the Boruto era, but that is due to the fact that he's stacking the Sage mode Hagoromo gifted him with the...
Dude, trust me, bro. It 100% is Spasm. Just every official media says it's not. Just trust me, bro. Every official media says it's not, but trust me, bro.
I think people do get kind of be chakra mode. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. However, where I think people do get kind of twisted is in presentation, as Naruto and Sasuke don't use a ton of their abilities, more so due to these abilities not being effective against the characters they're fighting against, which
I've had this argument before and it's utter garbage. It's really dog shit. It's like the worst argument. Madara can absorb jutsu, the Preta Path of Pain can. There's a movie character in Shippuden called Hiroko. Same name as Sasori's puppet. You know, the Hiroko shell. The Hiroko movie villain can absorb chakra, as I said, and he still has feats. He still has, you know, more bombastic jutsu. Like I said, Pain has, you know, pretty bombastic jutsu. He destroyed the whole Wii village, and he can absorb chakra through the Preta Path. Madara can absorb chakra, and he still has insane feats. He cut apart a mountain range when he was when he used the Susanoo. So again, the argument that you need to use more grounded techniques when you're fighting because you are you know facing someone with absorption powers, that doesn't even make sense because again, Shippuden literally had absorption powers. Preta Path of Pain. Madara. Sasuke has absorption powers in Shippuden. He uses them in the Valley of End fight. He literally absorbs chakra in the Valley of End fight, and yet the Ashura Avatar versus the Susanoo explosion was one of the biggest AoE attacks in the series, despite despite Sasuke having absorption powers. There's a ton of characters in Shippuden that have absorption powers, yet nobody is going to deny that Shippuden objectively has a lot of AoE feats. Like, it's kind of stupid. Sasori fans are literally the same kind of people as this, where they'll say, you know, well, you can't expect him to have feats. He's such a minor character. It's like, well, he has a multi-stage fight. You know, it's multiple stages of a encounter, which proceed over an extended period of time. During that time, you could have included a feat or two. Yet they didn't, because he's a mainly grounded character using puppets, with bladed weaponry, shot-out darts, you know, puppets with, like, marionette, like they're made out of wood. I mean, the entire thing's a very grounded sequence. It's entirely set within a cave, too. Besides the point, though. He's gonna say, a lot of this video is just, trust me, bro, they can, but they never do. It's can, but never do. You know, it's, trust me, I can do this, but I never will do this sort of mentality. And again, you could make the argument that, oh, hey, it's just a small series. You can't judge it so harshly. Again, this is a series of 300 episodes. People want to treat it like it's one arc because, well, the Cell Saga didn't have feats. It's like, well, Cell Saga was one arc. The entirety of the Boruto anime is longer than the DBZ anime. The original DBZ anime ran on for, I think, 291 episodes, whereas the original Boruto anime ran on for, I believe, 293 episodes.
You have that critique of Boruto and don't like the more taijutsu-oriented fights and want these characters to have a
I'm not against grounded visuals in terms of storytelling. I don't care. Black Lagoon, Cowboy Bebop, what's another one? I don't have issue with that sort of thing. What I have issue with is people telling me that, trust me, bro, they can do something that's 800 times better than what they're currently presenting, but they just don't. I would have the same issue with, you know, if a Cowboy Bebop fan said, oh, hey, Spike Spiegel can totally blow up a universe, but he just never does, bro, so trust me. I dislike people trying to lie to me and deceive me into saying something or believing something that isn't true. Not that I have issue with the visuals itself. I just dislike that people like you are trying to sell me on something that isn't actually happening. The visuals themselves are grounded, and that's fine within a vacuum. Just don't try to tell me that they're not grounded, and that they're not what I see. Just accept what is on screen, and don't try to tell me otherwise. That's it.